So, as young people in 2026, I'm curious to find out, what does 1976 mean for you? I mean, I remember also as a young person believing that, I was part of the struggle, the main struggle, but I mean, I was born in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, you see the transformation, things are happening. But for you as a young person and in academia, actively in academia in 2026, what does 16th of June 1976 mean for you?
Luthando, I think you can take it.
Well, I think for me would the understanding of the power of young people, because the 1976 uprising was not about anything, but it demonstrated how young people come together to challenge a system. So I think the first thing for me, in young people, and we know that people rise of the struggle. But what's interesting for me was they sacrificed their life, they sacrificed the people they had, not only for themselves, but for the generations that they would never be able to meet. And I think, for example, I was not born in 1970, but I'm a direct beneficiary of their sacrifice.
Yeah,
You know, um,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think for me, it's the power of young people. When our young people are conscious enough and they're able to challenge. And I want to say that I think when I define what is it being a student,
Mm-hmm.
means being a student means that you need to be a constant critical person. Whatever. I mean, when we write research, we need to identify gaps for us to come up with a solution. And for
Exactly,
you to
exactly,
identify those gaps,
exactly.
therefore means that you need to be a critical person, a conscious person. You need to be aware. You need to be informed. You need to comprehend. And I think if ever our young people can tap into that, they can demonstrate the power of the 1976 young people that they have demonstrated. That spirit of defiance was an ultimate demonstration and one of the most prominent
Yeah,
movement of our time. We still speak about it today.
exactly,
Their
exactly.
influence still is part of our heritage. So um,
Mm-hmm,
for me,
mm-hmm.
it literally means that if our young people can tap into that power again, we have the possibility in the
Yeah,
meaningful way that we can contribute to society, not only for us,
mm-hmm.
but for the generations that will never be able to meet.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, everyone? Anele, Aqhama, what are your thoughts around this topic? Especially, in terms of being a beneficiary, like Luthando mentions, what benefits do you think you've seen from that time?
Um, I think I will just be just a bit brief, but I think most of the things that I've seen, or rather I've benefited from that struggle or from that movement, is access. Because when we look at Black people or previously disadvantaged people, they didn't have access to certain things, especially young people. So now we look at
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, the issue back then was access to higher education, you know, access to
Yeah,
academia, access to being able to pursue whatever that one feels relevant and feels like it's going to contribute. Yes, there are red tapes and nitty-gritties around academia, but that's when now we talk about projects like your decolonization project, your projects of transformation. So we have
yeah,
such things in higher education spaces solely because of the struggles or the demonstrations that was made um, back in the day. Now, also when we look
mm,
at the lens of higher education as a whole, um, we've seen that universities have moved or are slowly moving from solely focusing on the academic projects. And these things
Yeah.
are, are well informed by the kind of clients, or rather students, that we have as a university. For example, the University of the Western Cape, we know that we have first generation students. So universities have
Yeah.
now moved from focusing on the academic project to rather meeting students where they at. And I believe that that are fruits of transformation, fruits of, you know, challenging the system in ensuring that a young person
Mhm.
is well taken care of, so that they're able to, create a better future for those that are yet to come. And it
Yeah.
also means that I'm able to be myself in whatever that I want to do or pursue. As much as there are struggles and societal challenges that we face, but
Yeah.
that point in time means that, like Mr. Ntwasa had said, that the power lies within me to create the life that
Exactly.
I want, to create the life for others, a better life for others.
Mhm.
So it just speaks of
Yeah.
creation, access, and empowerment.
Mhm. 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 Yeah. What are your thoughts, Aqhama? What are your thoughts around? And I also want you to touch on the fact that, um, one of the things that they were fighting for was, what was considered Bantu education, and the forcefulness of being taught in Afrikaans. When you were in high school, were you perhaps affected by it? Could you easily understand the language? Um, how did it affect you?
Mm. I think I'll start with just agreeing with my peers who also shared what they feel. I think young people have always been at the forefront of change. And even today, we still have that power to continue on from the work that they have started. I think there's been a lot of change since then, and I think that is the power of unity as well. When we stand together and advocate for something, so that's
Yeah.
that's that's the power of unity, and the results then is what we now have, which is access to better education, access to opportunities. And yeah, I think from my perspective, I did Afrikaans
Yeah.
since primary, but I think I still um, don't, you know, really relate with the language. But
Yeah.
it did help me in terms of, getting to understand the other side of the world. I mean, how Afrikaans people do things as well, and being able to be in certain spaces, so yeah, it's that. But I think more than anything, we just need to continue on as the youth, bring that unity back so that we fight for
Yeah.
what we have right now, and the need for
Mm-hmm.
advanced economic empowerment, and what we're going to leave for the next generation.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. So I know, Anele and Luthando, you guys are working so much and you're passionate about student support, and you work along with the university in terms of trying to capacitate students and, making them comfortable. But what does educate student support mean for you when you are at a university? What does it look like? And are there any advancements that you see, or have you seen, let's say, from last year to this year, or if you have started earlier on in 2024, are there any advancements that you feel that these are really necessary advancements that are needed for students?
I think for me, if I were to begin, it's we need to understand that our student have all the means to make it in life. They have the resilience to make it in life. They have made it to this point, so they are capable. And I think now, as a development practitioner, we say that you can never impose what development should be or how development should look like. I think the universities, I think
Mm-hmm.
we are doing it as a university. We need to recognize that
Yeah.
students must be the co-creators of what success means to them. and they must be at the center of whatever that we plan, and then we say that is student development. They must engineer that.
Would you say also knowledge? Would you also say that there could also be, let's say, part of co-creation of knowledge as well?
Yes.
Do you feel that they can also, have contribution?
There needs to be an interaction between the official staff and the students in creating the environment that we say that students can thrive in. And I think if ever we master that, we listen to the students. And at some point we need to say, I say in most of my projects that when students come with solution with problems that I need this, I need that and that. What do you have? What do you have? How can we work with what you have so that you can get what you want? So students, normally it's a top-down approach where we plan in boardrooms what student success should look like. And we do not go,
that's true.
we do not go to students to get to hear what their success needs and what it should look like. If ever we're able to listen to students painting the picture of how they want to succeed or their aspirations, their dreams, and so on and so forth, we can only guide and facilitate that process based on principle, but they are the engineers of their own success. Right? It's one thing. It's one thing to say that we need to have an inclusive residences, inclusive projects. What does inclusivity mean? Students then must have,
in terms of the students, yes, especially from the student side, what does it mean?
And I think I came freshly from, because when I graduated undergrad, I was immediately recruited at the university, and I was trusted to work in student projects. And because I knew I'm from Rez, I stayed at Rez. I knew the dynamics, and I knew and understood what being a student meant. And I think now, being a young staff member who freshly graduated, I'm coming with a different angle to people who never stayed at Rez, and their kids never been at Rez really. And there was a resistance at first, but I think because of the efficiency of that methodology, they tend to adopt it. So I think students as co-creators and as engineers of their place is what I define student development.
Yeah, because often, I'm talking also as a staff member, which is really what we do. Often, we talk in the staff meeting, we meet, we create something, we implement it, but nobody actually hears the student's voice. How is this going to affect the student? Will this be challenging to the student? And on that point, Anele, what challenges do students have currently in modern academia? What have you seen that they really struggle with?
There's quite a number of things, Prof, that students are faced, and at the forefront of it all is mental health. Working in a university like ours, where students are generational case breakers, they carry a lot on their shoulders, coming from their backgrounds and having to change the situations in which they come from. That on its own has certain effect in terms of what they carry within themselves. So mental health at the forefront. And the university is really trying in terms of meeting students where they at, even though we know human resources will always be an issue. One of the issues also that challenges that I've picked when it comes to students, other than mental health, is food security. Food security amongst university students, which then makes me ask myself, as universities, are we really educating? Are we really equipping students to be able to, take charge of that part of their lives? Because in our university, we find that as much as a student has funding, that funding, he or she has to break it into half and send a bed at home.
Yes.
So
Somebody's waiting. Look, I feel that because somebody is literally waiting for that date. Somebody's waiting for that date that the money is coming in. So it's really painful. It's really painful.
Yeah, and some of the other challenges that we see is that transitioning from high school to university, and I'm sure you experience it quite a lot as well in the laboratory.
Yeah,
And I remember
exactly.
your department tried to sort of meet where we at. I remember we had lab manuals that were written in isiXhosa, so that kuthiwa charter into ndonigalela, which I
Yes.
thought was very transformative, and that's where the university is actually moving with the new current VC that we have, using 3
Yeah.
different languages. So those are the issues that we also see, the sense of belonging and the sense of transitioning amongst first-year students. And we saw that there was a bit of a high failure rate, not because, like Mr. Luthando had said, they're not smart. They're smart for the mere fact that they made it
Yes.
to university, but it's just that transitioning and proper supportive platform or ecosystems that the university has to ensure that the student,
Yeah.
thrives regardless all the odds that the university brings. Amongst that
Hey.
belonging, we see also some of the issues like um, gender identity, because when you get to university, one gets to be themselves. They
Yes.
learn that they come in touch with their sexual orientations. And the universities, I believe, they are
Yes.
there to make sure that they support and educate students as well as the ones that are going through that. There's quite a lot of
Yeah.
challenges, Prof, especially now at postgraduate level. Funding also becomes an issue. There's just a
Mm,
bunch.
mm,
But I
mm.
think the forefront is mental health, well-being of students, as well as food
Yes, yes,
security
yes, yes,
and
yes, yes.
belonging in the university. I mean, UWC, I think it does try to make sure that there's a sense of community amongst the students because we share the
Yes.
same struggle. But when you go to your elite universities, that division or that gap is quite a lot, and they tend not to belong, and it's their reality. So those are the challenges that I think students
Yeah,
face.
because you say that, and I I always believe that community is important. Community is important because the way you're saying that at UWC, it's sort of a community. The backgrounds are very similar, if not the same, among students. So there's a sense of belonging for everyone. It is really, it is a really touching point when you put it that way, and also the fact that often in the boardrooms, the student voice is not there. So people are planning in isolation, but the student voice is not there. It's a real pity. As a student now, I'm just thinking, Aqhama, that because you've worked a lot in entrepreneurship, what is the interest like, with young people across the country? And why is it important? Why isn't entrepreneurship important? Because you see, Luthando and Anele are really core academics, so they're really in touch. Yeah, they're in touch with the creation of knowledge, and then you come in with another perspective of entrepreneurship. So why is it important for young people in South Africa? And are you seeing any interest as you've been working with young people?
Yes. So entrepreneurship is such a powerful tool for youth empowerment, because you are able to solve problems within communities. We're faced with a lot of problems in our communities. And what I've seen is a lot of young people are using these problems that they find in their communities to be the solution for those problems. And in that way, you're creating opportunity not only for yourself, but you're creating opportunities for other people as well. Because for the work to continue, you will need more people
Yeah.
to be in line with what you are doing. And most of them create job opportunities within their communities. And so when there's a lot of people who do that within their communities, you see a problem and you become a solution for that. That means that the community that you're a part of advances. And so
Yeah.
entrepreneurship then becomes such a powerful tool because you don't wait for someone to create an opportunity for you, but you see a problem and you create an opportunity. And
Yeah.
and to that as well, you find people who will help you as well. What I always say is we need to young people who want to start or be the change in their communities, you need to be part of communities that advance for, advocate for what you want. So if it's entrepreneurship, part of incubators so that you can learn, because knowledge is the biggest thing. You need to learn. You need to get as much information as you can, so that you're able to access opportunities that are there. Most times opportunities are there, but it's just that we don't have the knowledge or the information to go and access that information. So being part of an incubator, there's a lot of incubators. With the work that I do, the Selula Foundation, our labs, OTSA, there's a lot. And then there's also government. Government also helps in terms of funding. So being part of those incubators, then you're able to access not only but access to funding, access to networks, so that you're able to build your social capital, because that's what's important for you to, build and scale. You need other people who are game.
If somebody wants to start a business, like a young person, would you say those are the forums that they should be part of? What advice, any additional advice would you say they would need if somebody were to say, okay, I want to start a business, and they're young, possibly they're still in school, but they want to start a business. So where would you say they should go, or what should they do? Any advice? Would you say, first of all, the incubators, would you say that those are the first sort of areas they should start with, maybe?
It depends, because maybe some areas there's no incubators. So what you can do is, if you see in your community there's someone who started a business, I think that's where you can start. You start with what you have. Go to that person. They guide you in the way because they've already done that. And so you learn a lot from someone who has done that. And it doesn't have to be someone who's, extremely successful, someone we all know. Chances are those people, they get a lot of, messages of people wanting to support. But when you get from people that are close in line with you, then you can start from somewhere. And then you move from that. There's a lot of content online as well. There's podcasts, there's YouTube channels that share about how do you start. If you have, if you need funding, where do you go? So it's those things that if there isn't anything, there is someone or two that have started a business, and you can learn from those people. And then if there is an incubator in the area, then you join that, and preferably online. I mean, in person. You go to in-person sessions, and because now we want to do a lot of things digitally, and we still need to connect with people physically. So be part of those.
Yes.
And be involved in your community as well. Be part of forums or whatever the case is, because that's where you're able to push the narrative around your business. When people know you, when people know the kind of person that you are, we buy into you. So,
but I want to add.
So the Selula.
Yes. She's making
go ahead.
Fantastic point for my liking, and I'm even thinking that in your community you are identifying a gap that they need this solution, and of course you are realizing that there is no incubation in this community for the young people to thrive. That is an opportunity on its own. Where you can say to business owners, let's meet, let's create this, so that those who are coming have a tapestry to begin it. So I think also the power of exposure. And I've said this in all my
say that again.
I've said this in all my social settings, that I don't think, for me, university or academic, or rather, let me say, information and learning was a matter of me being employable. But information is about the exposure. The university for me was about the exposure that you get to have, the access that you need to have, the resources. Because, Prof, you are a resource to a student. I am a resource to a student. Being able to identify where can you leverage to accelerate your growth as a person. And I think hence education is far more even important. Not only for you to be employed, but how do you create opportunities to sustain yourself and those around you?
That's a powerful point.
That sounds like you have to be That sounds like you have to be street smart, eh? In a
Oh,
way. I don't know.
That's very
and
true.
It's, can
street
I
smart is,
can
I
I
think,
just add to what you were
yeah.
saying about the importance of education? Even when you start a business, if you don't know, if you don't have any knowledge, then you won't be able to build a sustainable, successful business. There's certain principles that you need to follow. So you need to learn those principles that you need to follow, so that you can build a sustainable business. So education becomes the cornerstone, of success in any area of your life. You need
Yeah.
information and knowledge so that you're able to move from one point to the next.
So why do businesses fail in townships? What's the cause of it? What is challenging township businesses especially? Because I know that's where we are now, trying to build our townships and to become, more marketable to outsiders.
Aqhama would answer it beautifully, but I would say, I would say that,
Yeah.
I would say people don't, and not only in businesses as well, I can relate it to student development and support, that if you do not understand your why are you doing what you're doing, you ought to fail. Because everything will pull you in different directions that you even lose your core essence as to why are you doing this. So you need to be able to identify your why. But importantly, discipline. Bandu abacha, young people, they want easy money. They want easy things.
Yes.
That they forget
Yes.
their long-term investment. They have a discipline to do what you need to do, but at the very same time, never forget your why in that process. Why are you doing what you're doing? That is fuel that will continuously drive you to your envisioned self. But Aqhama, I have a beautiful way in
Yeah.
that she can answer.
Because she's the expert after all. She's the expert.
I don't,
And
no, no, no. I
Aqhama, you
don't
didn't
think
tell
you're
us,
an
so what do
expert.
you do? What is the Sululo Foundation? You didn't tell us what happens at your workplace.
Okay, that's what I love doing. So the Salula Foundation is an NGO, and our mission is really to bring entrepreneurship education to townships across South Africa. And not just South Africa, the mission is to grow even beyond South Africa.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. We can
Yes.
hear you.
The vision is to go into different townships across Africa to help them build sustainable businesses. That's the core of what we do. And we have an 80 steps framework, which is essentially how do you plan to start a business, launch a business, and you sustain a business. So there's different steps, literally 80 steps of everything that you need to have within your business to grow into a point of sustainability. So it covers marketing, operations, administration, compliance, funding. So all of these different elements that help you build a sustainable business. So that's what we do. But we are currently still in the Western Cape. So yeah, that's what we started in 2023, and we've worked with over 300 entrepreneurs within townships in the Western Cape. And it's quite easy. We have a website, celulofoundation.org, so you can just get the link on there. We actually have a cohort coming up in July. So yeah. Yeah, I mean,
amazing.
there's I think what I've seen with the work that I do as well is young people, as I said, are creating solutions within their communities. A lot of there's Siso Dlule, he owns a gym in Kailicha. And he's promoting a healthy lifestyle within the community. And there's another one, Usiki, Siki's Coffee. It's also in Kailicha. He brought the coffee culture within the township. and he's built this space, which is also a community where we not only drinking alcohol within the community, but we can come together and we can drink coffee and have conversations that can propel us forward. So it's there's another one, Sindile Mavundla. He owns Culture Cycles, and he promotes cycling within the townships.
My word, that's amazing.
And so
that is amazing.
These things, you don't only get them outside of the township, they're bringing them within the townships. And even there's spas in Kailicha, Belanova Aesthetics, so there's a lot of, things that are happening within our communities. So that's what we need, where young people, you go out to these cities, but you come back and you bring those things back to your community.
Exactly. That's amazing, guys.
To add
go
a
ahead.
bit, I think what Aqhama might left out a bit is that going back to that point of how do people that are interested in entrepreneurship and don't know where to start, especially from higher education side. So what they do is that we have an MOU with them as a university where they train students to become business coaches, and they solve problems for these entrepreneurs in the township. So that is the form of a student who is still finding their identity in entrepreneurship. They get to mentor and also consult for the entrepreneurs that they serve. And in that way, our students get one, employment, two, they get to learn the nitty-gritties around businesses, because that 80-step methodology gets to be taught to our students, so that when they consult, they're able to assess each business according to that 80-step methodology. So it's quite, a beautiful initiative that they do, both for our students as well as the communities.
I think.
Tell me something. So the Selula Foundation, does it work with student affairs at UWC? I want to understand that.
Yes.
Is there sort of a partnership?
Yes. So actually, Anele and I are a product of the consulting programs that are at UWC. So what happens is the Selula Foundation entrepreneurs, right, get paired up with UWC students, where the students consult the businesses and they help them with, different steps within the 80-step, whether it's marketing. So it's like an assignment that the students work on, whether it's marketing, it's operations, it's HR, whatever, the need is for the business. And so that exposed then us to entrepreneurship. And I think that's how I also, got into the space, because it's really problem solving, and, that's the kind of space that I want to be in. And I think a lot of us really need that consulting experience, so that we're able to think outside.
I want to be young again when I hear all these things. Like, it's like, I want to be 20, doing start all over. The opportunities, I'm so amazed.
Yeah, just to add in a bit, Prof, and I'm an higher education enthusiast. So what universities are doing currently is that, like Aqhama had said, for our students that perhaps don't know that they want to do entrepreneurship, but they are interested, there are these incubations within campuses. They go as far as giving them funds to start their businesses, giving them resources in terms of consultancy. At UWEC, currently, we have a Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, which has those projects and programs for people who have different roots in entrepreneurship, people that are entrepreneurs, people like, for example, myself and Aqhama, who love consulting, helping businesses grow. And then there are people that like to support. So young people, when they get to university, I still believe that education is the core of it all, but they need to expose themselves into these opportunities and not just go to class, but expose themselves. That's where you learn. That's how you start businesses. That's the university supports you for when you fall softly and yeah.
Yes. I think, I don't know, but tell me if I'm wrong. Don't think I don't know whether the orientation process advertises these things. I just wonder. Because I often feel like you speak to somebody at third year or you bring in a speaker to speak about something, or just a colleague from campus, and you see the shock on the student faces that, what? We didn't know. So is there a gap perhaps, during the time that they start their studies and that orientation period? I feel like there's something missing there, because I can tell you this, that even in my class in chemistry, a lot of them want to start businesses, but they don't know how. And I don't have advice to give them.
I think it depends on the autonomy of the university, Prof. And when we look at UWC, for example, student affairs is not decentralized, it's central. We have, but we're trying to move away from that, where students have to come to us. It's not supposed to be like that. We are the ones who are supposed to bring all the information and go to our students. Similarly with these programs, there is a gap indeed. And I think this is a call to universities to sort of find models that put the student at the center, and then move outside, bring support, bring all the supportive mechanisms to the students, or rather meet a student where it's at and assess where the interest might be, redirect them. There is indeed a gap in that, Prof, and it's within most universities, because there's gaps, silos across, the research niche, the teaching and learning niche, student affairs niche. We need to find a place where these are interconnected, to make a very proper university. There is a gap indeed.
Yeah. So somebody experiencing pressure and uncertainty, Luthando, particularly a young person, what can they do? Assuming they're feeling a lot of pressure, they feel that, oh my gosh, I cannot cope anymore. These studies are too much, and they're not even certain about their future. How would you approach giving them advice? What would you do? I often find that, gosh, I also don't know what to tell these people. Apart from somebody crying in your office, and you just don't know what to do. They're uncertain about the future. They are overwhelmed with pressure from class. What can we do to help?
Oh, I think now I'm going to speak as an academic skills facilitator. And I think that our students, they need to, and I wish I knew this earlier, Prof. Maybe I would have been a doctor by profession,
Yes, man, why not?
Our student, I feel that our student, they work against their brain. In most of whatever that I'm facilitating, or the academic coaching that I host with my students, they work against it. And it's not supposed to be like that. You mustn't work against your brain. You must work with it to achieve. The minute you work against it, it will flag out that you're doing something wrong. You would panic, and so on and so forth. And I say to my students, in most of the time, there is this methodology of how to study. It's a method on how to study, where you need to encode and you need to consolidate, and then you need to retrieve information. That's how your brain stores information. So your brain stores information. Your brain stores information based on familiarity, based on repetition. But our students wait for the study week for them to prepare. But if ever you could have started when the semester starts, right? So to define these three stages of encoding, consolidation, and retrieving, I make it very practical for them, that when you study, or rather you look at your course outline have what are we doing this week in class? But our students, they only consult the course outline at the beginning of the year. They never consult it again, right? Yes, when you consult your course outline, you get to understand and you get to see what is it, which chapter are we doing this week in class. And if ever you can take an hour before class, an hour or two, to go through the content that will be covered in class. You can use AI, Prof, to even accelerate that, to explain these concepts further to you, to enrich your understanding.
Yeah.
I call that process encoding because you are taking in information, you're familiarizing yourself with information. And when you are in class, because our students, they come to class without even being prepared, and they wait 45 minutes of their time. They waste 45 minutes of their time because the content that you as a lecturer are delivering, they are not familiar with it. They even don't know what you're talking.
Yes.
And
then they will say to you while you are explaining, they say, oh, or maybe just before the test, they come to consult and say that I don't understand everything.
And because
this is now a day before the test.
And I say that if ever you could have prepared in class, you don't have to know everything, but prepare, get familiar with the content so that when you are in class, because I tell them that the lecturer, they rely on slides most of the time. I say that the lecturer, the slides are not for you to tell you everything word to word. The slides are there. The slides are there to facilitate learning. So if ever you come to class and you've made yourself aware of what is covered in class, you are therefore able to engage with the lecturer. You are able to engage with your peers. That's how learning takes place. If ever I listen to my peer explaining a particular concept, I'm able to join what I have with what I'm receiving to make the information far more richer. That for me, but that participation in class and interest in class speaks to the consolidation of the information you have in your brain. So that after class and break during your exam, it's even far more richer or able to retrieve that information. And I say to students, I say to my students that you can be in a situation that where a question paper, you are writing an exam, for example, and you did not study this, you didn't go through it during your study period, but you are able to remember it in class because it's something that exists in your brain. You went through it. You can even remember. You can even remember that, oh, prof said this, and then she explained this in this way. Therefore, you are able to attempt to answer that question. But our students do what we call passive reading. When even they get to a question paper, they look at the word that, oh, yes, I did go through.
Yeah.
No?
If develop flash,
yes,
and
sometimes
then
they even say,
it's
I know this information. They even remember the highlight of how that information was highlighted on the book. They are unable to retrieve it. So our students need they need to understand how their brain works so that they can work with it. Best believe that when my students consult in terms of the resources that we have with us, when we tell them, they get shocked of how we can make. And fortunately for me or for them, is that I was a student and know how it feels. So when I'm relating to them, I'm relating to them so that they understand, first of all, that they mustn't be shy to acknowledge that they can study effectively, right? So
they don't even have groups now, Like I noticed that they don't study in groups to sort of hear what the other person understands and what the other person doesn't understand, and they explain to each other. I'm surprised that people are reading in silos.
And
so
that's not how I think that's not how learning works. That's not how you consolidate information. If, for example, Prof, I was coaching a student in medical bioscience. I said she told me that they are dealing about viruses, how they evolve and so on and so forth. But I said, if ever you are reading a textbook, you've got a limited view of that. You need to engage with people. You need to engage with your lecturer. You need to engage with your colleagues so that they bring a different perspective, so that you are not only have a linear way of understanding this, but you have a multifaceted way of understanding a particular concept or a theory. In a question paper, it won't come in a linear way for you to be able to attend. The lecturer, it's the same problem, but in different wording. Therefore, you need to understand that in its largest or complex form. So I would say to students that don't work against your brain, work with it. For you, student. And I think students, they think that they have all the time in the world. They don't. They think that they have to wait until the very last minute. So you need to start. I start with my student on time. And we have groups where we call a buddy pair, where you have to even engage with your every week. What did you do? What did you learn? I know. I even asked them, do you even know at the beginning of the lecture the aims of what you know what that thing is? It's called the aims of the intent of the lesson. That by the end of this lesson you should be able to know this and that and that and that. They don't even go through that in terms of assessing them.
Yeah, but honestly, I want to be honest now. I've also have been at fault of not even putting that when I start a lecture. Like, okay, at the end of this lecture, this is what I do it the very first period that, okay, in this course, we will do all of this. But before the lesson, I don't tell them that, okay, in this period, you must know the. So I think also as lecturers, we also are at fault sometimes in how we maybe structure our our content or our slides that we give to the students. I mean, like I'm confessing now, like I don't say that, okay, today, this is the aim of the class. I just get to, okay, remember slide 34 of yesterday? Let's move on to that slide 35. I just recap what I said yesterday and then I move on. So maybe we needed like a course or something, like a small course.
You know, Prof,
Some
Can
of
I
us.
just come in
I teach
a bit? Can I just come in?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that, Luthando.
No.
I think, Prof, one of the challenges that I've noted or I've seen, even including myself, to what you just said about academics not clearly outlining the objectives of each lesson. I think at the core of it all is, just to add in a bit, we need to learn and understand the bigger picture of everything, because personally, that's how I function. So I'm sure you and my other lecturers would be bothered, because first thing first I would ask is, why should I learn this? How is it going to benefit me? Why should I know, for example, physical chemistry?
Equilibrium.
So I think there has to be that reiteration. Mana, the reason we're learning this is because this is how it's going to help you. And just to add on the question that you asked previously, as an academic, when a student comes to you and they're crying, you don't know how and where to. I think first thing first is you need to refer them to, for example, each and every university. There's a Department of Student Affairs in it. And for example, in our university, we have the Center for Student Support Services, where Mr. Luthando works. And when the student gets there, they will then go through, it's a triage. They call it triage processes in health sciences. Then they will assess the needs of the students, whether this student needs academic coaching or needs mental health interventions. And then they will take it from there. And similarly, if a student leaves at RES, there are programs in residences where they cater to cater to student needs. For example, if a student comes crying to you and they do mention that they leave at RES, you redirect them to the RES services, where in case of UWEC, there's development officers who are trained to provide psychosocial support as well as academic support. So it's just, as a lecturer, you need to sort of assess what are the needs of your student at that point in time and be able to refer to. There was a lady that came 2 weeks ago from Durham University and the UK, and I love their method, or rather how they do things, is that each and every staff member of a university has some form of basic counseling skills whereby they're able to contain a student and be able to refer them properly. So as an academic, you need to be well-versed with what is happening in your campus in terms of support services that are offered for your students, so that should you be confronted with that situation, you're able to redirect your students. For example, you have chemistry students at third year of honors level, you are supposed to be preparing them for the job opportunities. As an academic, you must be in touch with the surface or the flow of your university. Bring in speakers from career services. So as an academic, we need to take it upon ourselves that we need to be in touch with what is happening in a university, so that we're able to channel our students. Yeah.
We're really close to the end, but I was very curious about, in your personal lives, what adversities that you had to overcome personally in order for you guys to be where you are, because I must say that I'm very proud of each and every one of you, of your accomplishments. But I always believe that there's something each of us, if you are a successful person, there's something you have to overcome. There is a challenge or adversity that you have to overcome. So I was very curious because the whole point of the Sociable Chemist podcast is that if somebody's listening now to this, what can they learn? Possibly they are going through the same adversity as what you are, but what have you overcome? What have you overcome?
I think for me, if I
I
were
mean,
to
anyone.
start, I think for me personally, that's the biggest thing that I had to overcome was to forgive myself for not knowing. I think that's my biggest. I think we grow up in societies, particularly Lokshini, where you are
Ah,
indoctrinated,
Gus,
where you are
yo.
indoctrinated about values, about belief system, about life on its own. And I think many of our young men, they don't tap out of that. I think for me, university was a place of exposure where I had to unlearn ezinye izinto and learn ezinye izinto, where I had to keep an open mind with ezinye izinto, and how to coexist and live with people who are different from me, and to understand that because they are different from me, they are not wrong morally, you know, and because we
Yes,
have this belief system that when someone is doing something that is different from you, they're automatically wrong.
it's wrong.
So
Mm.
I had to forgive myself for that, and to learn to look in the mirror and see myself and see the bigger picture of what I believed I possessed, you know. And because I've enabled my horizons in that capacity, I was able to listen and learn, and also take the
Yeah.
initiative to teach others, you know.
Yes,
And
yes,
because I
yes,
believe
yes,
that
yes.
part of the responsibility that we have, as the 1976 youth did, they didn't only create or fight for a creation of an opportunity for them, but we are beneficiaries of that today. And now that I'm learning, how can I pass the baton forward? You know, and I take it
Yeah.
upon myself every time to educate those around me so that they educate me as well.
Mm.
I love to have meaningful conversation with Anele because I get to learn a lot. I love to have a conversations
Yeah.
with Aqhama or for you, Prof, because we are sharing information, we are learning,
Yeah.
and it gives a
Exactly.
different
Exactly.
perspective to the world. It actually affirms that the world is bigger than your village that you grew up into.
Yes. I mean, before I came to study at UWC, I had never been to Belleville, but I grew up in Khayelitsha. Imagine. I had never been to Belleville.
And someone
So you can imagine getting directions to come to Belleville.
and
You know, so because that's all I knew from school, aside C, school. That's all.
and the world is bigger than your village. When I came here to university, Muslim people were too far-fetched from me. I didn't even
Yeah.
understand. I didn't even know what Eid Mubarak is. And you get here, you are staying in the same room with someone who's Muslim. You are Christian. How do you coexist?
Yeah.
You come to
Mm-hmm.
university.
Mm-hmm.
You are a typical Kosajan. You meet people of
Yeah.
LGBTQ. How do you coexist?
E-
You meet people who are from
Exactly.
different countries
Exactly.
and different belief system. How do we coexist? And I think if ever we confront ourselves and we confront who we are and where we come from, and we understand
Yeah.
that the world is bigger than that, we are opening a
Yeah.
tapestry where everyone can try.
Yeah.
True.
I had
Yeah,
to.
I think one of my challenges or adversities that I've faced in higher education, I'm sure, Prof, you would know, is funding,
Yeah.
and it becomes very difficult to navigate your academic journey with funding. And I mean, Prof would know that part of the golden key, I'm actually one of the best students.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what I've found was that it is really somehow discouraging, but you have to continuously push. And it's with people like you, Prof. that ensure that we are supported. I remember first year, I don't know whether you remember this, but Prof was one of those people who would constantly check in, and just go out in terms of helping me to ensure that I don't move away from my ultimate goal, even though there's these things happening in the background. I think that is one of the challenges that I faced, and I believe that a lot of our students still face, being able to continue while, let's face it, when you don't have funding, university life tends not to be easy, which then
Yeah.
forced me to participate in a whole lot of programs just to make a living, And I'm grateful for that. But I do think that that has been one of my biggest challenges in the university space.
Oh man, Anele, thank you for that. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, particularly from our backgrounds, So I think it's important as academics to be able to just exercise a little bit of humanity and humility, when it comes to students, especially for a university like UWC. You want to be at the point where the student is to be able to approach you, So I would say, I'm not really advertising my department, but I think we try. And my faculty, we try. And I think the whole university, the leadership is trying,
And nowadays, people don't value relationships as a whole. And they do not realize. Today, I'm doing my master's. I'm a staff member. I've got friends who are
Yeah.
professors, who are lawyers, who are whatever that. But we started in first year together, right? I know
Yes.
now.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
know
Yes.
now who to tap into when I need particular resources, when I need a particular advice, because I have valued those relationships in the first year level.
Yeah.
And people do not know. We stay in the same room as a resummate, or we stay in the same corridor in the same residences. They do not know that in the next 4 years we are professionals, accredited professionals. And how do we leverage from those resources as well? So I think we need to make our students understand the value of relationships at that level, so that and the relationships are built over trust over a long period of time. And
Yes.
as a person,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
as a person, how do you market yourself as a brand? Because you are a brand as a person. Ever then you have yourself. So how do you position yourself strategically? That up
Yeah.
babenomdla xa ufowuna bakwazi ukuphendula i-call yakho, because you are that to them.
Because I think the most important thing is try to provide, try to be a provider, try to be a giver, because the day you make that call, it will just ring once. The person will pick up. Hi. And when you're quiet, people check on you. What's going on? Just try and be a giver, because you never know. You never know. I agree with that. You never know.
And that's
gentlemen. Wow, this has been very informative. Yes, you were going to say something.
I'm saying that's what I'm teaching to most of the students, that we are resources. We are living resources that people can tap into.
Yes. I think for me, the biggest thing, which I never thought I suffered for, was self-doubt. I think going into varsity, I realized the disconnect in terms of now you're in a space where there's different people coming from different backgrounds. And so it's no longer that small community of, there's similar issues that you guys have. And at the time, I think there were issues with my NSFAS. Where was I going to get 4,000 something to register?
I just want to thank you so much for your time and, for making the sacrifice, particularly over a weekend. So I just want to thank you so much. Anele and I have known each other. I don't know which year was it when he was doing first year. So we have now officially become friends. So Anele, yeah, we've become friends now. And without him, I don't think we would have met Aqhama and Luthando. So Anele, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now I've grown my family with Aqhama and Luthando. And I want to thank you so much, guys, for your time and for agreeing to be part of this podcast. So thank you so much. Any parting words, perhaps, before we leave each other? Any parting words? especially with the theme of this month?
I'd like to go first. I think I'd like to leave just a mini phrase that one of my favorite quotes, but I'm not going to say it as it is. It says that we are beings in, 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 in the process of becoming people in constant pursuit of greatness, total emancipation. And the joy was, and the joy will remain in the journey of our becoming. So, with that being said, is that we need to enjoy and open ourselves
Yeah.
into the process of whatever that we're going through, because in the end, we are in the process of becoming whatever that we want to be, or whatever that we're destined to be. So the joy
Yeah.
is in the journey of our becoming.
That's amazing, Anele.
I'm even
Thank
captured.
you for that.
I'm even captured.
Yeah.
What do I say? What do
Yes.
I say next? And
Exactly. What are you going to say, Luthando?
I mean that is really, really, really beautiful and profound.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And in absentia, thank you to I wonder what happened to her. So thank you so much.